Hi, this is Pre-Algebra Lesson 1-5. Add and subtract rational numbers. In this lesson, we'll be able to add and subtract rational numbers. What are rational numbers again? Rational numbers are any numbers that could be written in fractions. In previous lesson, we talked about decimals. And we have two types of decimals, repeating decimal and terminating decimal. And there are decimals that do not fall in these category. And those decimals that are neither repeating nor terminating would be irrational numbers. They cannot be written as fractions. Okay, so today we're going to talk about rational numbers, fractions. Let's start with solve and discuss it. Malik hikes Castle Trail from point A to point B. The elevation at point A is below sea level. What are possible beginning and ending elevations of Malik's hike? So usually, if we're talking about sea levels are always 0. And anything below sea level would be represented as negative integers. And anything above sea level would be represented as positive integers. In this case, we're going to talk about fractions too. So how are elevation values of point A and B related? Elevation change from A to B, we know, is 120.5 meters. So from A to B, the elevation change is 100.5 meters. But we want to know some possible beginning and ending elevations. And they don't tell you. So that means we don't have an exact answer. We could have multiple, many, numerous answers. So we can just choose a number for A, and then we find elevation of B that has a change of 120.5 meters from A. Okay, so let's pick a number. A reasonable number for A. It's below sea level, so we have to start with negative number. It cannot be positive, but we can choose any negative number. So compared to B, it looks like A is closer to sea level. So let's not choose a big negative number. We can maybe choose a negative 10. How about we choose negative 10? If A starts at below 10 meters below the sea level, then how high would point B be? We just have to add 120.5 meters from negative 10 meters. Negative 10 plus 120 and half would result in 120 and half minus 10. So that's going to be 110 and half meters. Okay, so if we have a point that is 10 meters below sea level, your point B should be 110.5 meters above sea level. If we have a different point for A, then your point B should also change according to the elevation change. But this is just one example of a possible answer. So let's describe what we did. We used subtraction to find, we used addition to find the sum between, we actually use difference, subtraction to find the difference between 2 points, because we know they're 120.5 meters away from each other. So A minus B is equal to 120.5, which means B is equal to A plus 120 and half. So we chose -10 for the starting elevation A. Okay, and so B is equal to A, which is -10 plus 120 and half, and that results in 110 and half. So point B should have an elevation of 110 and half meters when point A has an elevation of -10 meters. Okay. Let's look for a reasoning. What would be different about the hike from point B to point A? Since point B is above sea level, right? B is above sea level, and point A is below sea level, the change in elevation should be negative. If you're going down from B to A, your change should be a negative number. So, yeah, so she's going to go down instead of going up, right? And negative represents going down. So let's write that down. Since point B is above sea level and point A is below sea level, the change in elevation would be negative. She would be going down instead of going up. Okay, let's look at the next page. So throughout this lesson, let's think about how are adding and subtracting integers related to adding and subtracting other rational numbers. So how are integers and rational related? The rules might be the same. How are they different? What are some different things that we need to remember and be careful about is what we're focusing on. Okay, so let's look at example 1. Add and subtract rational numbers with different signs. Lava flows from an active volcano's magma reservoir located below sea level through the magma conduit. How far is the summit of the volcano from sea level? So sea level is here, which represents 0. And the magma reservoir represents a negative integer, negative number, where it's shown 2 3/4 miles below sea level. And from here to the summit, it's 5 1/4 miles away. So how far is the summit of the volcano from the sea level is what we want to know. So from sea level to the bottom here is, we know that distance. We know this distance is 2 3/4, right? So if we know this total distance is 5 1/4 miles, how can we figure out this distance from sea level to summit? We can subtract this total distance minus what we know here below sea level. Okay, or we can add these two to get the total distance, but we don't know this, so we have to subtract this from this. So you can use the number line to represent the distances. Summit to sea level is here, magma reservoir to sea level is here, and the total should be 5 1/4 miles. So you can see that it should be 2 2.5 miles, right? Or you can use the rules for adding integers to add any rational numbers. So numerically, you would write -2 3/4 plus 5 1/4 and change that to a subtraction. And that would be 2 1/2. And you're going to use the sign of the greater absolute value. So the summit of the volcano is 2.5 miles above sea level. So now it's your turn. Try it. A dolphin is at the surface of the water and then descends to a depth of 4.5 feet. Then the dolphin swims down another 2 3/4 feet. What is the location of the dolphin relative to the surface of water? See if you can fill in the blanks and figure out the answer. Come back when you're ready for answer. Okay, are you ready? So from the surface of the water, it descends to a depth of 4.5 feet and then swims down another 2 3/4 feet. So you're going to fill in this blank with 2 3/4 feet. So what is the final position here relative to the surface of the water? So numerically, -4 1/2 minus 2 3/4. You're going to go further down below the surface of the water. So change this into an addition equation where you're going to add -2 3/4. And so if you add the two negative numbers, you're going to add the absolute values of them and keep the negative sign. You should get 7 1/4 feet. Okay, so the location of the dolphin relative to the surface of water is -7 1/4 feet. Convince me. How are adding and subtracting two rational numbers with different signs related to adding and subtracting two integers with different signs? So how is it different? How are they similar? So as you can see here, you can change subtraction into addition like that by adding a negative into your number, right? So you can add and subtract integers and rational numbers in the same way, and the same rules apply. You can add and subtract integers and rational numbers in the same way. The same rules apply. Okay? So do not forget the rules for adding and subtracting integers from the last two lessons, because you're going to use that. Example 2 on the next page. Use properties of operations to add and subtract. The force of gravity added to the force of thrust is the combined force at work on a model rocket. What is the combined force in newtons on the rocket? So thrust is going up, gravity represents the force going down, and together you want to find the combined force. So you're adding -0.49 and 1 1/2 in newtons. Commutative property says that you can change the order of addition. And additive inverses make you change the subtraction into addition. So you can rewrite this addition equation into this second addition equation and subtract 0.49 from 1 1/2. And you can change 1 1/2 into 1.5 and subtract them so that it's easier. You'll get a combined force of 1.01 newtons. So now it's your turn. Find the sum or difference of the rational numbers in parts A, B, and C. Come back when you're ready for answers. Okay, are you ready for an answer? So using the commutative property in part A, you can change the order of these two numbers because this number is greater. Or you don't have to, because for this one, you have the same sign. So you can just add their absolute values. 2.5 plus 5.6. If you change this to a decimal, you get 5.6, negative 5.6. So adding negative 2.5 and 5.6, you should get negative 8.1, or 8 and 1 over 10. If you solved it in fraction, that is. Okay, part B. Negative 4.4 minus negative 1.5. You can change this into a decimal as well. Negative 4.4 and change this into addition problem. Plus 1.5 should equal to negative 2.9, or negative 2 and 9 over 10. Alright, part C. Negative 135.4 plus 78.5. You can change this into a decimal as well. Negative 135.4 plus 78.5 should equal to negative 56.9, or negative 5 and 6. 9 over 10. Okay, did you get it all correct? If so, good job. Let's look at our last example, example 3. Find distances on the number line. Ruby looks over the edge of her boat and sees fish 0.4 meter below the surface of the water. So here it is in the diagram. If Ruby holds a 1 meter long net at 0.5 meter above sea level, here Ruby holds a net, can she reach the fish? Explain. So you know she's holding a 1 meter long net. So if she holds the net here, 0.5 meter above the sea level, your net could go down 1 meter. Is it going to be enough? Yes, 0.5 minus 1 is negative 0.5. And your fish is between that range. So, yes, the fish are 0.9 meter below where Ruby holds the net. So from Ruby's net to fish, the distance is 0.9. And so the distance is less than her net's length, so it's going to be okay. So now is your turn. Try it. Let's try it. 2 divers are swimming at different depths below sea level. One diver is at 25.5 feet. Okay, so you can graph it. Negative 25.5 feet. And the other diver is at negative 40.75 feet. How much further below sea level is the diver who is farthest below sea level? So how much further means you want to know the distance between the 2 divers. How much further is this diver than this diver? So see if you can figure this out by yourself. Come back when you're ready for an answer. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready to check your answer? So numerically, you can write an absolute value of negative 25.5 minus negative 40.75. and figure out your answer, because the distance between them is positive, because we're talking about how much further the furthest diver is than the other diver. So you can solve this inside and you can use the commutative property to change their orders, and you're going to get negative minus negative 25.5, and using your changing your equation into an addition, the subtraction equation becomes addition and cancels out your negative in 25.5, and that's going to give you a positive 15.25 feet. So the answer is 15.25 feet below sea level. Okay, let's summarize our lesson. So the rules for adding and subtracting all rational numbers are the same as those for adding and subtracting integers. So if you're not sure about the rules for adding and subtracting rational numbers and integers, please go back to the previous 2 lessons and review. The distance between any 2 rational numbers p and q on a number line is the absolute value of their difference. You can look at the example over here. P and Q, the distance between these 2 is the difference of these 2 numbers. Alright guys, that was the end of the lesson 1-5, adding and subtracting rational numbers. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask Ms. Kang in class. And we'll continue with the next lesson, lesson 6, multiplying integers, in the next video. Thanks for watching, and see you. Bye!